Sip&Talkers, whether you're catching us early morning, mid-afternoon, or late evening, thank you for joining us for what I think is a pretty crucial conversation.
Welcome back. Whew, I have to say, and please don't take this the wrong way.
Uh-oh.
But looking at you right now, I think you might have been enjoying life a little too much lately.
I know. Please, a little more politeness. But you are absolutely hitting the nail right on the head, because this isn't just about me. This is, well, it's an international, cross-cultural, and frankly, a very annoying phenomenon.
Oh, it is.
The middle-aged paunch.
It's totally universal. We see this issue just popping up everywhere. It afflicts everyone from the tech giants in Silicon Valley hunched over their keyboards late at night to the policymakers in Washington, D.C., shuffling between endless high-pressure meetings.
And the common refrain, the desperate question we hear is always the same. It's, I haven't changed my diet much, I haven't eaten that much, so why is my stomach getting bigger?
What is happening?
Yeah, is this just the curse of getting older?
And for decades, the easy answer was always, just blame your slowing metabolism and eat less. But the mission of this Sip&Talk is to go much deeper than that simple story.
Right.
We're defining this problem not as some failure of willpower or discipline, but as this deep, intricate interplay of your lifestyle, major hormonal shifts, and this is the shocking part, our own cellular physiology basically turning against us.
Exactly. We need to move beyond simple calorie counting. We need to understand the philosophical and ethical dimensions of this. We're not just asking how to lose weight, but why the struggle is so profound in middle age. And what are the ethical implications of these revolutionary new tools, like the GLP-1 drugs, that are now totally reshaping our relationship with our bodies?
We'll look at the severe health risks posed by visceral fat. That's the really dangerous stuff wrapped around your organs. And then we'll pivot to the philosophical ideas of body autonomy and how societal standards, pressure us into these specific, often totally unattainable body ideals.
Get ready, because we are going to break down the complex reality that faces anyone hitting their 40s or 50s. And the science, it's truly eye-opening. It might make you realize that your body is actively setting up an internal production line to make you wider, regardless of your best efforts.
Let's get into it. We're diving into Section 1, the biology of the midlife paunch. Is it our fault or ourselves?
Okay, let's start by dismantling the biggest myth we all grew up with, the traditional wisdom that says your metabolism, your basic metabolic rate, or BMR, it just slows down dramatically in your 30s.
That is the widespread and, deeply entrenched myth, yes. But when you look at the large-scale authoritative research, the kind published in top journals like Science, the reality is so much more counterintuitive than we ever imagined.
And this is where the data really becomes revolutionary.
The research shows that your BMR, that's the sheer amount of energy you burn just by existing, keeping your heart beating, your organs running, it's shockingly stable. It holds steady like a flat line all the way from age 20 to age 60.
Wait, hold on a second. You're telling me that for 4 full decades, during the peak stress and, frankly, accumulation years of middle age, the basic engine of our body is running at the same speed as when we were 25.
That is precisely what the data says.
Yeah.
The significant metabolic drop-off, the real one, doesn't even begin until after age 60.
Wow.
So if the engine isn't slowing down, why is everyone gaining weight? That is the core question. If BMR is stable, what is the true metabolic culprit of the midlife paunch?
Well, if it's not the engine itself, it has to be the machinery that's attached to the engine.
It's the entire vehicle's overall efficiency, and that's dictated by your body composition. You have to differentiate between your static energy expenditure, the BMR, and your total energy expenditure.
Okay.
Even if your BMR holds steady, your overall energy use decreases significantly because you are actively losing the body parts that require the most fuel to run.
Your muscle mass.
Your muscle mass. Muscle is the body's primary calorie burner. It's metabolically hungry tissue, and it demands energy even when you're just sitting on the couch.
Right. It's like a high-octane fuel tank for your metabolism.
Absolutely. And the data is clear, and it's pretty sobering. After age 20, if you're not actively doing resistance training to maintain it, you can lose up to 8% of your total muscle mass every single decade.
That's the phenomenon of sarcopenia, right? The age-related muscle wasting.
That's it. So think about it. If you're 50 and you haven't prioritized strength training, you could have 8 to 16% less muscle mass than you did at 30.
So you could be eating the exact same amount of food, but because your body has less of that calorie-burning machinery, you just automatically create an energy surplus.
That is exactly the mechanism. And that surplus energy that results from having a less metabolically active body, well, gets stored as fat. And we can't ignore the complementary effect of the straightforward lifestyle factor.
Oh, for sure.
Middle age often means peak career pressure, peak family responsibilities, commuting stress. It all leads to a massive reduction in NEAT.
NEAT, what's that?
Non-exercise activity thermogenesis. It's the energy you burn just walking around, fidgeting, doing chores, all the little movements.
So you're trading an active young adult life for, 10 hours a day sitting at a desk, then 3 hours sitting on the couch watching TV, and then 8 hours sleeping.
Precisely. That combinationless muscle mass leading to less efficient burning and more sedentary time reducing overall expenditure. It guarantees an energy surplus. And critically, that surplus is often preferentially stored as fat around the abdomen, thanks to the hormonal shifts we're about to get into.
Okay, let's pivot to hormones, because this is where the location and the shape of the weight gain really changes. It's not just about the quantity. For women, this is the classic shift, right? From a pear shape to an apple shape. What's driving that as estrogen declines?
So before perimenopause, high levels of estrogen typically promote the activity of an enzyme called LPL, lipoprotein lipase.
Okay.
And its job is to facilitate fat storage, specifically in the lower body, the hips, thighs, and buttocks. This creates that healthy, reproductive-focused pear shape.
It's kind of a protective fat, in a way.
It is, and that fat is mostly subcutaneous, which is less risky. But when estrogen levels drop significantly in middle age, the entire fat distribution system changes its rules. The signal that favored the lower body weakens dramatically, and the body's preferred storage location shifts to the abdomen.
And this is the dreaded central obesity.
Yes. And the key difference is that this abdominal accumulation is overwhelmingly visceral fat. This isn't the soft, jiggly subcutaneous fat you can pinch.
Oh.
This is metabolically active fat that's stored around inside your internal organs, your liver, your pancreas, your intestines. Visceral fat is inflammatory. It's endocrine. It actively secretes damaging hormones and chemicals, making it a huge health risk.
And men, of course, aren't immune to this, even without a clear-cut menopause event. What's the hormone story for them?
For men, testosterone levels begin a natural, gradual decline after age 40. Some people call it andropause. And this decline acts as a dual threat. Firstly, testosterone is crucial for muscle maintenance. So its drop accelerates the sarcopenia, the muscle loss that we just discussed.
So less muscle, slower overall metabolism.
Exactly. And secondly, lower testosterone levels correlate with increased activity of an enzyme called aromatase. And what aromatase does is convert testosterone into estrogen. This subtle shift in the androgen to estrogen balance encourages fat deposition, specifically within the abdominal region.
So men get a 1-2 punch, faster muscle loss, and a hormonal instruction to store fat right in the middle.
It's a perfect storm. And if muscle loss and sex hormone decline weren't enough, we have to talk about the modern epidemic of stress.
Cortisol.
Cortisol. The stress hormone seems to have a direct, almost toxic relationship with visceral fat.
It's a really direct link, isn't it?
It's very direct. When you live in a state of chronic, high-stress work deadlines, financial worries, family pressure, your body maintains a chronic elevation of cortisol. And here's the kicker. Cortisol receptors are highly concentrated in the visceral fat tissue of your abdomen.
So when cortisol is released, the visceral fat cells are basically waving their hands in the air, yelling, "Send the energy here. We've got plenty of storage space."
That's a perfect way to visualize it. Chronic cortisol specifically promotes the deposition and the growth of visceral fat, and it often overrides other metabolic signals. So that feeling of being perpetually stressed and overwhelmed, your body is translating that anxiety directly into a midsection expansion.
Okay, so we've established it's not just a slow BMR. It's a combination of muscle loss, hormonal shifts, chronic stress. But now we get to the most fascinating and maybe the most frustrating biological nugget from the latest findings. The idea that it might not just be about where we store the fat, but about our bodies actively making new storage facilities. Tell us about these fat progenitor cells.
This is a truly revolutionary concept, detailed in advanced science journals. It points to a unique, age-related physiological mechanism. We're talking about age-related fat progenitor cells. You'll see them called APCs or sometimes CPAs. And they live specifically within the abdominal visceral fat tissue.
And what are progenitor cells in this context? Are they like stem cells?
Think of them as specialized stem cells. Yeah. They're the construction workers who can differentiate and mature into fully functioning adult fat cells, or adipocytes.
Okay.
In younger, healthy adults, these cells are relatively quiet. They're present, but they're not actively building new storage depots unless there's, massive sudden weight gain.
So they're just standing by but not working overtime.
Exactly. Now, here is the shocking discovery. Unlike many other types of regenerative stem cells in our body that degrade or become less functional as we age,
Right.
these particular visceral fat progenitor cells do the complete opposite. Right around middle age, the equivalent of humans in their 40s, they become abnormally hyperactive.
Wow. So that's the cellular insurgency part. Instead of aging gracefully, they literally start a rebellion inside you.
They absolutely do. They excessively proliferate. That means they multiply at a rate far exceeding what you see in younger individuals, and then they rapidly differentiate into new, fully functional fat cells. They are not just filling the existing storage tanks. They are building new, state-of-the-art warehouses faster than you can keep up.
So for a middle-aged person, it's a double whammy. You have less muscle-burning calories, and at the same time, you have this internal, hyperproductive factory of fat cells popping up specifically in the most dangerous area, your viscera.
That's the essence of the unfairness of it all. It is like the aging process throws a middle-aged party deep inside your abdomen, complete with an unregulated construction boom.
I don't want to go to that party.
Nobody does. This physiological mechanism, it adds a significant layer of difficulty to maintaining a lean physique that younger people just do not face. It means the caloric deficit required for a 45-year-old to lose a pound of visceral fat is functionally much, much harder to achieve than it is for a 25-year-old.
This knowledge just shifts the entire philosophical premise, doesn't it? It suggests that the immense effort required to stay lean in middle age is rooted in this deeply programmed physiological resistance. It's not just about being lazy.
Right. But while these cellular mechanisms add complexity, we still have to acknowledge the fuel source for this new construction boom. And that brings us right back to lifestyle, specifically the carb over fat crisis, or what some call glycemic obesity.
And we're not just talking about binge-eating candy bars here. We're talking about the sheer, pervasive volume of refined carbohydrates and hidden sugars that are just embedded in the global modern diet.
Precisely. We need to look at staples. The huge portions of refined rice, white pasta, highly processed breads that just dominate global diets. Then you have to account for the insidious sugars in seemingly benign products.
Like what?
Not just sodas, fruit juices, prepackaged salad dressings, sauces, energy bars, even those gourmet coffee drinks that are basically milkshakes.
This constant influx of high glycemic foods forces the body into a continuous cycle of high insulin secretion. And that leads to the critical metabolic problem, insulin resistance, or IR.
Think of insulin as a key, and its job is to open the doors, the receptors, on your muscle and liver cells, allowing them to take in glucose for energy.
Okay.
When you bombard the system with refined carbs, you force the body to secrete massive amounts of insulin constantly. And over time, those cellular doors get tired of being jiggled. They start to ignore the key. They become resistant.
So the door is locked, and the energy, the glucose, can't get in efficiently. So where does it go?
The body has to deal with the sugar flooding the system. It quickly converts that excess glucose into triglycerides, and the liver and adipose tissue take the hit. Since the muscle and liver cells are resistant, the body's metabolic priority shifts to storing that energy as fat. And due to the hormonal and APC mechanisms we just discussed, that storage is overwhelmingly visceral fat.
And that's the core of the glycemic obesity problem.
It is. This makes IR a central risk factor for basically every chronic metabolic disease. Type 2 diabetes, heart disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease.
So we need to issue a critical, actionable health warning here. This is not just about how you look. This is not cosmetic fat.
Absolutely not. The data is crystal clear regarding the danger thresholds. International health authorities recommend vigilance. For men, a waist circumference of 90 centimeters or more. For women, 80 centimeters or more.
35.5 inches for men, about 31.5 for women.
Right. If you hit those numbers, it signals a significant risk of metabolic syndrome. You have to pay attention.
And the risks extend way beyond cardiovascular health. I was shocked by that study linking abdominal fat to cognitive decline.
That data is terrifying. It showed that excessive abdominal fat in middle-aged women can increase the risk of developing dementia by a staggering 39%. Visceral fat isn't just stored energy. It's an inflammatory organ, actively causing systemic damage, including damage to the brain. This is a 5-alarm fire for public health.
So to wrap up this first part, The midlife punch is a biological perfect storm. You've got a stable BMR, yes, but profound muscle loss. You have hormonal shifts redirecting fat storage right to your abdomen. Chronically high cortisol from stress, and worst of all, this internal cellular insurgency where our fat progenitor cells become hyperactive construction workers.
And all of this is fueled by a diet of chronic, excessive refined carbohydrates, which leads to insulin resistance.
Yeah.
Understanding this complexity is the first step towards self-mastery. If we acknowledge the scientific why, we now have to move to the deeper philosophical act of fighting back.
We now know the biological deck is stacked against us. But why do we even embark on this often painful, difficult journey of weight management? This takes us away from the biology and into the philosophical and psychological terrain.
And the motivation, the why, matters profoundly. We can view the struggle for weight loss through the lens of autonomy versus social compliance.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Well, when you prioritize weight loss because your doctor flagged high blood pressure, or because you genuinely want the vitality to keep up with your grandkids, that's an act of what we can call positive autonomy.
So that means you're choosing health markers and quality of life for yourself. You're taking active, self-directed responsibility for your life. It aligns with that ancient philosophical goal of becoming a better version of oneself.
It also perfectly reflects Aristotle's concept of the golden mean. Pursuing a healthy, functional body composition reflects moderation and balance. It's a virtuous middle ground. It's the disciplined rejection of extremes, both the extreme of sedentary indulgence and the extreme of unhealthy, unsustainable dieting.
But the flip side, the darker philosophical concept, comes from the thinker Michel Foucault, the social discipline trap.
Foucault argued that modern institutions, media, advertising, fashion, and even parts of the health industry, create this constant, pervasive surveillance system. They dictate the thin ideal or the fit ideal, and they force individuals into continuous self-monitoring and self-correction.
So you feel compelled to constantly police your own body, not because you feel bad, but because you feel like society is watching you.
Exactly. And this is compounded by the concept of appearance capital. In our highly competitive consumerist societies, physical appearance is no longer just aesthetic. It's a form of investment. It affects your career progression, how you're treated in social settings, your appeal on dating platforms. It becomes a kind of capital that you can trade for opportunities.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about the professional headshots you need for LinkedIn or the filtered images on dating profiles. We are acutely aware that our physical presentation is being evaluated, both professionally and personally, all the time.
And here's the philosophical danger in that. When your motivation for losing weight is purely extrinsic, to gain more appearance capital or to satisfy societal expectations, your body becomes alienated. It no longer belongs to you and your intrinsic health goals. It belongs to the market, to the social media feed, to the external evaluation system.
So the crucial reflection for you, the listener, becomes, are you dieting and exercising to gain self-mastery and internal vitality, or are you striving for social conformity? That distinction dictates whether your effort is going to lead to psychological fulfillment or just continuous anxiety.
And shifting to psychology, those extrinsic pressures we just discussed, they feed directly into a massive source of modern distress, appearance anxiety.
Which is fueled primarily by social comparison theory, right? But it's turbocharged by technology. We're constantly comparing our natural, complex, unedited selves to the highly curated, often algorithmically enhanced, filtered perfection we scroll through every single day.
And this endless comparison creates intense frustration, especially for high-achieving people. For many, particularly those driven by professional success, the failure to control their physical body, the inability to achieve that ideal weight, becomes a source of intense shame and perfectionism.
It's like they apply the same brutal standards they use to judge their performance at work to their performance on the scale.
Precisely. And if they fail to meet that ideal weight, it triggers self-loathing, shame, and sadly, it can contribute to severe mental health issues, including eating disorders. The American Psychological Association has documented this clear link between heavy social media use and body dissatisfaction that leads to depressive symptoms, and it's a crisis, especially in younger demographics.
And I want to revisit a powerful insight you mentioned earlier, which I think is particularly relevant for our high-stress audience. The concept of fatigue fat.
Yes. This is often seen in individuals whose professional or family lives feel chaotic, overwhelming, and just utterly beyond their control. So they attempt to exert control over the one domain they feel they can immediately influence.
Their caloric intake and exercise schedule.
Exactly. It's a coping mechanism for the deep anxiety caused by the lack of control in their outside lives.
It's an internal compensation mechanism. They can't control the volatile stock market or the difficult client or their kids' school schedule, so they obsessively measure their food and their miles.
And often, this excessive internal pressure just cycles right back into the cortisol problem we already identified. The anxiety itself is counterproductive. Sometimes the truly healthy intervention is not an extra hour of cardio. It's improving your boundaries at work, prioritizing restorative sleep, or seeking help to manage chronic stress. Address the root anxiety, and you might naturally mitigate the weight problem.
But when that self-directed effort does succeed, it's psychologically vital. It boosts self-efficacy, right? That core belief in your own ability to execute actions and achieve your goals.
Absolutely. Success builds confidence. However, we also strongly advocate for shifting the philosophical goal away from looks and towards something called body neutrality.
What's up?
This is the positive psychology approach. It's about valuing your body simply for its function, for the fact that it allows you to walk and run and think and engage with the world, rather than solely judging it as an aesthetic object to be constantly evaluated and judged by external standards.
So let's redefine the goal using the hard physiological data we talked about in Section 1. If the number on the scale is misleading, what should be the true, objective physiological target for effective weight management?
The scale is just an unreliable data point. The primary physiological objective has to be reducing the visceral fat ratio and maintaining, or ideally increasing, muscle mass. You can weigh the same amount, but if you've swapped muscle for visceral fat, you've become significantly unhealthier. We are aiming for optimized body composition, not just reduced body weight.
So the goal is metabolic optimization.
Precisely. Successful weight loss is defined functionally. It means achieving demonstrably improved health markers, boosting your insulin sensitivity so your cells listen again, balancing chronic cortisol levels, reducing systemic inflammation, and optimizing the cellular signals within your vital organs. It's a full system functional reboot of your internal environment.
And we don't need extreme measures to achieve massive health dividends. This is the good news that's often lost in the weight loss marketing blitz.
This is the hardcore data from long-term gold standard studies, the kinds you see in the New England Journal of Medicine and The Lancet. These journals repeatedly show that even modest achievable weight loss, we're talking 5 to 10% of your total body weight, yields monumental benefits in improving key markers.
What kind of work?
Stabilizing blood sugar, lowering blood pressure, and positively altering your blood lipids.
So if you weigh 200 pounds, losing just 10 to 20 pounds, which is a 5 to 10% loss, already yields these incredible sustainable health benefits.
This is the solid, long-term, objective reason to prioritize healthy weight management. It's about extending your health span, the number of years you live in good health and function, even more than your overall lifespan.
And on a global scale, this focus is an economic necessity. Financial media like Bloomberg consistently highlight that managing weight is a core public health issue because reducing the massive burden of obesity-related diseases, diabetes, heart failure, certain cancers, it saves governments and healthcare systems staggering amounts of money. And more importantly, it improves the productivity and vitality of the entire population.
So to summarize the second section, aim for autonomy, not conformity, seek function, not just form. Your primary target is not the number on the scale, but the health of the cells wrapped around your vital organs.
Okay, we've dissected the why, the biology, and the philosophy. Now let's look at the how. Let's review the 3 primary tiers of weight management. The foundation, which is lifestyle, the intermediate, which is drugs, and the advanced, which is surgery.
We have to begin with the foundation because it's non-negotiable. Lifestyle change is the only long-term, sustainable, side effect-free solution. It is the absolute bedrock, the original source code for every credible weight management plan, even if medication or surgery becomes necessary.
So what are the specific core components we need to emphasize to fight those biological challenges we discussed earlier?
First, dietary adjustment that is focused on reversing insulin resistance. This means shifting to low glycemic index foods, prioritizing high-quality protein to support your muscle mass, and increasing your fiber intake. This directly combats the carb overfat crisis.
And second, the exercise component, which has to specifically address sarcopenia, the muscle loss.
Exactly. Combined exercise is essential. Strength training is absolutely non-negotiable for preserving muscle mass and boosting that metabolic fire. And this has to be combined with high-intensity interval training or HIIT, or just consistent cardio for heart health and calorie expenditure.
And finally, addressing the behavioral aspect we identify that contributes to those cortisol spikes.
Stress and sleep management. They are as important as your diet. If you are chronically sleep-deprived and stressed, the cortisol will override even a perfect diet. But here is the challenge that faces us globally. Adherence and long-term compliance. They remain the biggest hurdle. Knowing what to do is the easy part. Doing it consistently for years is the truly difficult part.
And the difficulty of compliance is exactly what propelled the next tier of intervention pharmacotherapy into the stratosphere. We are talking about the massive, disruptive innovation of GLP-1 receptor agonists.
The current stars of the weight loss market.
Semaglutide, tirzepatide, all of them.
These drugs are a legitimate medical breakthrough. They are not simple amphetamine-style diet pills. They mimic human gut hormones, known as incretins, which fundamentally regulate our appetite and glucose metabolism.
Okay, let's break down the mechanism. Explain why they're so revolutionary, moving beyond just appetite suppression.
The mechanism is really elegant and multifaceted. It acts on 3 key areas. First, they bind to GLP-1 receptors in the brain, which massively suppresses appetite and reduces what people call food noise. This is the primary driver of reduced caloric intake.
Okay.
Second, they significantly delay gastric emptying. Food stays in your stomach longer, which prolongs the feeling of fullness or satiety.
And that delay in emptying is powerful, but that's also what causes the common GI side effects, right?
It is. That's why nausea and vomiting are common. And third, and this is critical, they improve blood sugar control. They do this by stimulating insulin release only when needed. It's glucose dependent. And by inhibiting glucagon, which is the hormone that raises blood sugar. This direct action against insulin resistance is why they were originally designed for type 2 diabetes.
The economic and societal impact is just staggering. We are seeing market estimates that project this segment of the obesity drug market reaching over $33 billion by 2032.
This growth is fueled not only by the average 15 to 20% weight loss that patients achieve, but also by the secondary benefits. The reduction in cardiovascular events, the reduction in chronic kidney disease progression, it is undeniably a powerful pharmaceutical tool.
However, the international regulatory landscape and the access issues are highly variable.
They are. In the US and European markets, regulatory bodies are increasingly approving these higher dose forms, specifically for obesity, often for patients with BMI of 30 or 27 with comorbidities. But the barriers are cost and coverage. The high list price means access is often determined by the generosity of your insurance plan.
And countries in Asia, like Taiwan or Korea, they seem to be moving much more cautiously.
That's correct. In many Asian jurisdictions, the regulations remain stricter. The drugs are often approved first for type 2 diabetes, and the indication for weight loss usually requires severe restrictions on BMI and comorbidities. This forces most patients seeking cosmetic or mild weight loss to pay expensive, out-of-pocket costs.
And this cost barrier and the high demand lead us to a really critical consumer warning, which is the black market.
Yes. Caution must be exercised against purchasing any unverified non-prescription slimming pills online or from unregulated foreign markets. We've seen reports, particularly concerning markets like Korea, where products falsely marketed as weight loss aids have contained dangerous, unapproved, or even toxic ingredients.
So, always stick to legal prescriptions verified by a qualified physician.
Always. Now let's confront the elephant in the room. The ethical crossroads presented by this powerful technology.
It's a big one.
The ethical debate is intense, and it's necessary. First, let's just address the clinical challenges. We mentioned the GI side effects. 5 to 10% of patients discontinue treatment because of intolerance. But the bigger concern is dependence.
The dreaded rebound effect.
Exactly. When patients stop the medication, there is a very high risk of significant weight regain. This fundamentally implies that for sustained results, many patients are going to require lifelong use. This creates a perpetual dependence model, which is, very lucrative for the pharmaceutical industry, but raises questions about personal autonomy and systemic cost.
And this leads to the central ethical crisis that outlets like Bloomberg and the Financial Times have been investigating: resource allocation.
The high price and the explosive demand, often from those seeking marginal or cosmetic weight loss, are causing critical shortages. And these shortages are diverting the drugs away from the population they were originally developed for.
The critically ill type 2 diabetes patients whose lives depend on these medications for glucose control and organ protection.
Precisely. It forces a brutal societal choice. Do we allow a life-saving drug to be prioritized for cosmetic improvement simply because those individuals can afford the high price tag? Or do we implement stringent controls to ensure the critically ill receive it first? The strain on public health systems that are struggling to finance these drugs for the general population is immense.
It's a huge issue.
And this is where we return to the philosophical question. Is this technology an enhancement that makes life genuinely better? Or is it a pharmaceutical plug-in program that allows society and the individual to escape the hard work of addressing the original source code of self-care, diet discipline, and stress management? It's a profound choice between convenience and personal responsibility.
That distinction is key. We cannot rely on technology to fix what discipline should be handling.
And finally, we reach the high-level intervention. Bariatric or metabolic surgery. This is not a choice made lightly. It is reserved for patients facing severe, life-threatening obesity and related comorbidities.
So what are the strict criteria for even considering surgery?
The criteria are very specific, guided by endocrine and surgical guidelines. They primarily target patients with severe obesity, that's a body mass index, or BMI, of 40 or higher, or patients with a BMI between 35 and 39.9 who suffer from severe comorbidities like uncontrolled type 2 diabetes, severe sleep apnea, or high blood pressure.
I see.
In some cases, a BMI of 30 to 34 may qualify if the patient has extraordinarily severe, difficult-to-treat comorbidities.
So this is truly treatment for severe metabolic disease, what's sometimes called diabetes.
It is. It is a functional cure or remission pathway for many severe metabolic illnesses. The two main types are the sleeve gastrectomy, which removes about 80% of the stomach, drastically limiting food intake capacity, and the gastric bypass, which reroutes the small intestine to reduce both capacity and nutrient absorption.
There are less invasive options too, right?
Yes. Endoscopic options like gastric balloons and endoscopic sleeves are also available for specific lower-risk patients.
The effectiveness in achieving massive, sustained weight loss is proven, but the commitment required post-surgery is arguably the most stringent of all the interventions.
Oh, absolutely. While it's highly effective, surgery permanently alters your digestive tract. Post-operative life requires strict, lifelong nutritional tracking and supplementation. The endocrine guidelines emphasize the non-negotiable need to supplement essential nutrients.
Like what?
Specifically vitamin D, B12, calcium, and often iron, because the body's ability to absorb these nutrients is permanently altered. Failure to comply can lead to severe, debilitating deficiencies.
So even the most advanced technological solution demands the highest level of personal discipline and ongoing responsibility.
That's the common theme across all three tiers: lifestyle, drugs, and surgery. Success is ultimately dictated by compliance, discipline, and the autonomous choices made by the individual. The tools are only as good as the hands that wield them.
So what does this entire Sip and Talk mean for you, the listener? We've moved from the revolutionary science of your fat cells to the heavy ethical questions facing modern medicine.
Our final synthesis is this. The healthiest approach to managing your body's weight involves merging the necessary scientific tools, medication, or surgery, if it's clinically indicated, with deeply disciplined, autonomous lifestyle changes. If you use technology merely as an escape hatch from self-care, you might find yourself lighter today, but fundamentally less resilient and more dependent tomorrow.
Don't let the scale define you. Your true weight is measured by your knowledge, your character, and your resilience in the face of these physiological challenges. Health is the most worthwhile long-term investment you can ever make. It's an investment in your future functional self.
And before we offer our final thought, a quick shout out to our great friend Mickey. We know he's out there producing awesome content on his YouTube channel, Mickytolife, with fun memes and travel vlogs.
And rumor has it that Mickey's belly is also starting to grow, probably from all those high-stress travel logistics. Mickey, buddy, you absolutely need to listen to this one before your paunch becomes its own permanent organ.
And that leads me to my final provocative thought for all of you. Stop weighing yourself against external standards, the scale, the fashion models, the filtered social media images. The question isn't, am I thin enough? The real question is, how does my body feel today? And can it functionally support the goals and dreams I have for the rest of my life? Value your body for what it does for you, not just for what it looks like to others. Stop dieting for other people's eyes.
That is the perfect way to synthesize this incredibly important conversation. Thank you for joining us on this very, very deep discussion.
If you enjoyed this conversation and learned something new, please hit that subscribe button for the Sip and Talk. We'll talk again next time.